Hi, I'm Chuck, developer of Colony. I want to spend a few minutes talking about what Colony is, how it works, and what my vision is for the future. So my main goal with Colony is I wanted to make autonomy successful. And to do that, I went and looked back at the most successful network on the internet, and that's obviously the World Wide Web. And I think it's so successful because of this right here in the middle of the screen, the search bar. So thank you, web crawler, for inventing this. What was this, 31 years ago? It's just so intuitive. You type whatever you want, you hit search, and you have access to everything you'd ever want. It's genius. But the problem with the World Wide Web really comes down to its architecture, and it's the server client architecture. So you can, the clients are light. They go ask this server that knows everything, that's all-knowing Oracle, and it will go and send things back to you. And that works great. And it's easy to scale. It's easy to manage. It makes a lot of sense. It's just easy to design, and that's really why it's everywhere now. But that's also its greatest weakness. And we've learned that over the last few years is that it comes at a cost. That server is not benevolent. It is not your friend. It's collecting all the data and selling it to the highest bidder or giving away to governments. It's feeding you misinformation. So based on what advertisers want or what governments tell it to do, it will straight lie to you. And worse than that, it will manipulate you without you even knowing by reordering results and changing things to present a narrative that's not really the truth, but is convenient for, whoever is paying the checks. So with Autonomi, we've finally broken free from this. I've been following this project for years, and we're finally seeing it work. Finally. And this is a great thing. We don't have to deal with this middleman anymore. We can directly access the data. This is awesome. But that server was the thing that knew everything. So how do we search for stuff without having somebody to go ask? And so, I've been an engineer a long time, and I've learned that the most successful applications are the ones that, at a minimum, coexist with the system under which they operate. And the best applications will fully ascribe to that mentality and leverage it to their own benefit. So with Colony, the last thing I wanted to do was make just another server client thing, because I'm just going to be fighting it all the time. And you can see in this picture, classic engineering fail. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge, or Galloping Gertie. It wasn't a bad bridge. It was just in the wrong place. And it was fighting Mother Nature, and Mother Nature always wins. So what do we got? We got to start from the beginning. So what do? So with Autonomi, you upload your stuff. So Colony will upload your stuff. But these files don't really mean anything. They're just a bunch of random numbers. You have to download them to kind of really know what they are. How do you find this stuff? So I know on the Autonomi forum, there's some forum posts where people are listing all their files, and it's like, oh, you can get my stuff here, 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 and here. And that's fine in the beginning, but it doesn't scale well. And then you're still using the web to find stuff on Autonomi. We can do better than that. So what we really need is metadata. So let's add some. So to track your own stuff, what Colony will do is it'll create a pod. And I stole that directly from Solid. I thought it was a great idea. And this pod is really just a publicly readable scratch pad. And it'll say this file at this address is a video. This one is a song. This one is a book. You'll write down some other stuff like how big the file is, maybe who the artist was, who the author of the book was. You can write down all this information. And like Solid, all this information is written in RDF, so that it builds a graph of all these interconnected pieces. So, all right, cool. So yeah, we know about each file now. And all this info is in one address. So I can go to my pod and I can find all my stuff and I know about it. I don't even have to download it. But now we have another problem. We had 3 files and now we have 4. So how do you find your stuff? So what Colony does is it does the same thing that these modern crypto wallets do, and it will generate, or you can import a BIP39 12-word seed phrase, and it will generate a master key, and then that master key will be used to generate all the derivative private keys, and that's where you get your pods from. So if you didn't follow that, all you need to know is 12-word seed phrase. You can input that on a new computer that's running Colony, or if you throw your computer away and you got a new one, or you had to reformat your hard drive because you got a virus, you can go and just type your 12-word seed phrase in, and all your stuff is there. Easy. But, my stuff isn't that cool. My friend's stuff is a lot cooler than my stuff, and I want to get their stuff. So how do you share? So what you do is you swap your pod address. So this pod is a publicly readable scratch pad, so that's why it has to be public. And you give that to your friend, and you take your friends. What Colony will do is when it reads through your pod, it'll say, oh, I know this thing is a pod. It'll have a description. It'll say this is a pod. And it will go download that, and then it will read through all their stuff. So now you have your stuff and their stuff, and just you have twice as many things to look at. Well, this is great. But I want to find new stuff because my friend's stuff is cool, but it's not that cool. What I really want is Bob's stuff. I don't even know who Bob is, but Bob has the best stuff. So what Colony will do is it will recursively go through those pods. So it'll say, oh, Jim, and it'll read through Jim's pod, and it'll say Jim knows Tim and he knows Bob, and then he'll go grab their stuff. And on and on and on. And it builds this friend of a friend of a friend network, and with just a handful of connections, especially if Jim knows all the people, you built the entire network on your computer. You've just scraped all the pods with all the metadata, with all the information, and you've downloaded all of it. Perfect. It's a network that built itself through the process of emergence, just like Autonomi handles data at the low level. This just built up a whole network of all the connections of all the stuff everywhere, and all you had to know was Jim. What a cool guy, Jim. Thank you. So really, what Colony does is it's the metadata layer to Colony, or the metadata layer to Autonomi. Sorry, but you don't need to use Colony to use it. Once you posted all the data, and all the data is connected to everything else, it's there for the taking. Any other app that uses the same kind of framework, any AI agent that uses the same kind of framework can get to this stuff. Just like Autonomi, the metadata layer belongs to all of us, and it's not controlled by anybody. It's just built up of the random bits and pieces of information of all the people that decided to contribute to it. It's a beautiful thing, in my opinion, and I hope in yours too. So all right, so where is this thing at? Let's play with it. Let's go mess with it. So it exists on the GitHub. The boilerplate code is there, but it doesn't do very much. But we can go mess with it at least. So let's go turn it on. Let's see what it does. All right. So it's in Rust, obviously the best language for developing on Autonomi. I kind of say that jokingly. I really like Python. I want to learn JavaScript too, but I never picked it up. I'll probably play with the JavaScript libraries next, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Anyway, all right, so let's get started. So yeah, you hit next. So you got to enter a password. If the passwords don't match, it'll scream at you. What this does under the hood is it uses a library called Cocoon, and Cocoon will take all of your stuff and put it into this encrypted cocoon, I guess is the best word for it. That's probably why it's called that. So it'll put in this little encrypted container, and you have to use a password to get to it. So that's how I store all the private encrypted secret stuff that you don't want left out in the open. Okay, so yeah, you type a password. All right, now you have to generate a seed phrase, or you can type one in. That's fine. You can regenerate it. It just grabs the list of stuff from BIP39, so you can do whatever. Or if you want to type one in, that's fine. If you have a typo, it'll say, hey, this is invalid. What are you doing? So this is good. And all right, so you create your seed phrase, and then, oh yeah, you got to confirm it. My bad, hold on. I gotta you know, like any good crypto wallet, you got to write this thing down somewhere, because I don't know if you wrote it down, and I don't want to be blamed if you screw it up. All right, so we got to type all this down. I'm not the fastest typer. All right, cool. So, all right, now we got this. Now we have to confirm it. So we type the same thing in again, and obviously tab works, so you can tab over. I always love reading these things. It's like, you know, clown gesture, public actual birth. It's like these things are, it's like you make a game out of these. Anyway, that's getting off topic. All right. Okay, so now we got our seed phrase in there. All right, now we have to import our wallet, you know, because you can't upload anything if you don't have any money. You gotta have your ant tokens. So you gotta type in a key. I'm not doing anything special here. It will check if it's long enough. So, you know, if it's not long enough, it'll scream at you. If it's too long, it'll scream at you. If you put a non-hex character in there, it doesn't let you, you know, but a hex character obviously works. All right, so we got, you know, some key that's irrelevant. And it says, all right, welcome, cool, everything's good. All right, so here's Colony. So you've got your configuration page. You know, here's where your downloads go. Here's where the data path is for all of your encrypted stuff that you don't have to look at, but it just lets you know. The paths are, I use a library, I think it's called DIRS. I have to go look it up, but it will understand what platform you're on. So whether you're on Linux, Mac, Windows, it'll go change this to put it in the right place. So, you know, whatever. Yours might look a little bit different than mine because I'm using a good operating system and you might not be. So, all right. So, yeah. So if you want to view your seed phrase, you type in this. You know, if you type in the wrong thing, you know, it's like, oh, no, that's the wrong one. What are you doing? And then if it's good, it's good. You can change the password. And basically what this does is it takes your old cocoon, rips all the stuff out of it, and re-encrypts it with a new password. So it just regenerates a new one. And then if you want to view your seed phrase, you obviously got to type it again. You know, and if it's the wrong password, it'll say no. And then if you type the right one in, you know, it tells you the right thing. You know, clown jester, public actual birth. Yep, that was it. Okay, so, you know, all this config stuff works. If you change the downloads path, it'll actually change all of it. It'll save it. If you change this password timeout, it'll save it. You know, all that stuff is good. Your wallet. So, you know, this is the address to that private key we put in there. It'll go and look up your ETH or your ant balance. I plan on adding extra private keys so you can have as many as you want in here. So, you know, maybe you want to pay with multiple addresses. I don't know. So the idea is you could have multiple things in here. See, my wallet timeout works. It just locked me out. So let me go back in here. Oh yeah, this will be cool. Watch the ETH and ant balance. So it's loading. Oh, there it goes. So it's all that stuff is asynchronous under the hood. And it took a while to figure that out, to work with this framework, but I did get it working. So that's good. All right, so yeah, so now you can look up those things and it'll find them for you. All right, so then this is I don't really like how this turned out, but this is just kind of where I'm putting my thoughts down, so it'll be a lot different in the end. But the idea is you'd have, you know, here's a pod and here's like the files in there, and I want to make this expand out, you know, so you can like traverse through and see what's in what pod. This is kind of where your data management spot. You can figure out who gets what, you know, what files go to what pods. You could manually search through stuff and figure out, you know, what's in this pod and this one and this one. You can traverse through everything. So it's kind of like a manual search the network thing. Mostly it's for your stuff, but if you really wanted to trace through stuff, maybe you could find out, you know, these pods are better than others. You know, I don't know how useful that'll be, but I want to put that in there. Downloads, you know, obviously this is all your downloads. All that stuff is in there. and then you have your search, and you'll have your search bar. And I'm going to add another button. It's called Advanced Search. So all of the pod data is in RDF, and it does Sparkle queries under the hood. That's what Colony's actually doing. And this dummy search bar is kind of just doing I'm planning on doing a search off of a name. So, it's not going to be that good. Probably just a regex type of thing. But if I put the box here, then you could do like a raw Sparkle query, and you can do some really, really cool advanced stuff if you understand how to do Sparkle query. So I wanted to open that up for users so they could do that too. And obviously when you hit search, it'll put all this, it'll kind of list, all the different things that came up. And then on the right, it'll have like a box, and it'll say, okay, here's the information for this particular file. Do you want to download it? I want to do like comments. So inside of your pod file, you could attach a comment to an address. So like if, then you could see, oh, this file is bad, or this gave me a virus and it ruined my computer, that type of stuff would be good. So you can leave comments for people, little breadcrumbs, or just say, oh, this is really good. Or maybe you want to check out this guy's stuff. I don't know, but I'm going to put that kind of feature in there too. So yeah, that's basically the app as it stands today. So yeah, let's go back. Let's go finish this thing up. All right, so yeah, the initial iteration of Colony, I just want to make a standalone app. I've registered the colonyapp.org domain name, and I plan on, once there's good releases, I'm going to go post the binaries for this thing on there so people can find it, and that the search engines can find it, and all that stuff will be there. And I'm going to make it a static page, ideally, so that we can actually host it on Autonomi too, which will be pretty cool. So you don't even need the web anymore. And then next. So next, I want to make a server mode of Colony so you can run this headless. I'll put it in a Docker container, and then I'm going to build a Rust API so that clients can talk to it. I think that'll be really useful, and this thing might just become a server that kind of runs under the hood you don't interact with very much. But my main thing here is that the Slint UI that I'm using, it's all Rust, so all the code is Rust. That helps make the thing portable and really fast. But honestly, the GUI leaves a lot to be desired. You can't make stuff as cool in Slint without a whole lot of work versus what these guys are doing in JavaScript. And these web frameworks, like, man, they're just so cool, and all the widget libraries and stuff. So anyway, so I want to make a server, then I can make a really cool, good GUI. So then after the server, then obviously web client, so you can connect to Colony as a server from web app. And I wanted to make it multi-client so that multiple users can talk to the server at the same time, have multiple accounts. So, you can run it for yourself. You can run it for some of your friends. Obviously, it's not the most secure way, but if you're the one hosting it for your friends, you're probably the one that cares. And you know what I'm talking about. So that's the web client. And then next, mobile client. So if you got a server, why not have an Android and iOS app? Pretty handy. And then finally, a local AI agent search. So, I mentioned that search bar, and you can type in Sparkle queries. Honestly, what people really want these days is I want to just type in the search bar, and it connects to some AI agent on my machine, and it intelligently goes and searches for me. Find me some cool stuff, AI, and it'll go and do that for you. And with that data set, with everything in RDF and all the people building something that massive, like, just imagine AI running on your computer against some data set like this. It will be amazing. I seriously think it'll be really cool. Okay, so yeah, what's after the app? What do I want to do next? So what I want to do is make some kind of metadata standard. It's impossible, probably not even desirable to control what the users do, but I don't really know if we care. The idea would be, let's build guidelines for the applications themselves so that we can ensure interoperability and portability between all of our applications. let's go back. So if this is going to be the metadata layer, we need to kind of make sure that we're talking the same language so that our stuff can be portable and bounce around. So you don't have to use Colony. You can use the next fancy app, fine. No big deal. Or if you want to come back, or if you want to go do something else, or if you want to have an AI agent that you don't even have an app and it just does, let's figure that out. And as a community, I think we can create a really good metadata standard. So it's kind of like there's a call, to the developer community. Hey, are you guys interested in this? I think it'd be great. There's a lot of experience out there already, like the W3C's Solid project. I tried to take a lot of the guiding values from Solid and put them on Colony. But obviously it's the World Wide Web, so I couldn't exactly follow what Solid did. But I tried to leverage a lot of that stuff there. So I think we could develop something. I've been in a lot of standards over the years. I worked on the IEEE System Verilog committee. I work in the Accelera committees today to work on expanding System Verilog. I'm a hardware guy. If you don't know what System Verilog is, it's a weird language. But I'm doing a lot of stuff there to try to make that language a little bit better. But anyway, so yeah, I have experience on committees. If anybody was interested, hit me up. Let's talk about it. Honestly, I think it's too late for the web to implement the vision put forth in Solid. But we have a great opportunity here. It's right at the beginning. So, let's do it. Why not? So, thank you for your consideration. If you made it this far, I hope you found this video mildly entertaining. I hope you learned something. My goal here is to search autonomy simply. I think this thing says it all. And if we can easily search, autonomy has a great chance of being extremely successful, just like the World Wide Web, but it has to be really easy. So thanks again. If you are participating in Autonomy's latest scheme to drive these apps forward, throw me some ant. I hope this thing makes it. And I hope to make it across the finish line. I think this is very valuable. And if you're working on a project and you're interested in these concepts, let me know. I'm happy to help where I can. I think if we work together, we can really make this thing huge. This is what we've needed for a long time. Let's make it work. So thank you again. And hopefully I'll see you at the finish line. Thanks.